So Johannesburg residents may soon face high utility bills as the city proposes tariff increases for the 2025-2026 financial year. From the electricity and water to refuse collection and property rates, the adjustments could put additional strain on households' budgets. For more on this, let's now speak to the City of Joburg's Chief Financial Officer Tebogo Moraka. Tebogo, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. I understand that according to your schedule, the public participation was expected to start on Saturday, the 29th. Can you confirm if indeed you've started with that process?
Good morning, Aldrin, and good morning to all the viewers. Yeah, indeed, you're correct. We did start on Saturday in Roodepoort, and we'll continue for the next 5 weeks. So we've got sessions today, Tuesday and Wednesday, including the weekend that's coming up, and that's how it is going to roll for the next 4 or 5 weeks as we engage communities, stakeholders, business, education, all kinds of sectors in Johannesburg so that we can canvass their support and their inputs into the draft tariffs that we have.
Yeah. What sort of input are you looking for from the various stakeholders? Once again, also considering that you have some proposals that are within CPI, but others that fall outside of CPI. So what sort of engagement are you looking at here?
Look, in the main, it's for us to explain how those tariffs came about. But I mean, in the past, for example, through engagements, the City of Johannesburg has reduced some tariffs and changed some categories, especially on property rates, because usually big business and their chambers of commerce, like your SAPOA and the likes, would make certain comments where they will come to us and say, look, it makes sense to increase here and not increase on this side, just for business continuity, and also engaging residents to understand how they want their tariffs to look like. Obviously, we take into account major inputs from the tariffs that have been approved by NERSA for Eskom and Rand Water. That's really the tariffs that are above inflation, if we were to be straightforward with those. The rest of our tariffs are within inflation except for solid waste management, which is Pick It Up, and that's really trying to get to a more cost-reflective tariff, because that tariff has been quite subsidized towards the resident for many years, meaning Pick It Up has been making losses for a number of years, and we can't continue to in that trajectory, because at some point we'll get to a point where Pick It Up won't be able to do the job it's supposed to do for cleaning up the city of Johannesburg.
Yeah. What we've seen also in Gauteng especially, this is now speaking about broader Gauteng, but we know that the city of Johannesburg probably has the majority of households if compared to any other of the metros as well as the municipalities in the province. Is this issue of the value of properties actually being on the decline? Now, with the values of property continuously being on the decline, let's say in the city of Johannesburg, how do you juxtapose that to increasing the property rates by 4.6% if the value of my property is actually dipping?
So we do a GV, General Valuation Rule, as per the Municipal Property Rates Act, once every 4 years. And we did that last year in the city of Johannesburg, so for the 2023-2024 financial year. Now, the property tax that comes with your property is linked to that value that was then valued as of 2023. Now, I guess I understand when you say, look, my property value is going down, why is the tax going up? But I mean, if you look at generally how taxes work, in the main, it is to ensure that service delivery carries on, and that's why we only pinned it against inflation. We've in the past, like last year, Aldrin, we only increased our tariff for property rates at 2%. The year before that, sorry, it was at 3.8%. The year before that, it was at 2%. So we always take into account the fact that consumers have pressure. The economy is not doing too well. There is an uptake, obviously, we can see with electricity stabilizing, business is doing well, slowly coming up. But from a municipality point of view, with no GV for this current financial year, and the fact that as we move, service delivery elements also increase, we had to increase property rates. We've pinned it only to CPI. there were thoughts of maybe moving it just above. I mean, if you look at other metros, there's other metros who are charging 8%, by the way. We said, no, let's stick to CPI and then engage the community and see how we can then model it better through engagements and through looking at other streams of revenue that we are actually quite engaged on now in the month of April. So these are draft tariffs. We welcome comments to come in, but I think in the main, it is about the sustainability of the municipality. We are not trying to overtax and overburden our residents, but at the same time, we are trying to ensure that we have a City of Johannesburg that's financially viable and can deliver services to our residents. So that's the balancing act that we find ourselves in, and that's what we do on each year, and we consider those factors.
Yeah, I would argue and say also that one of the reasons that we are seeing the property value going down and dipping is because there is there's no driven interest to actually buy more property in the city of Johannesburg, as an example, compared to the city of Cape Town. It's not being seen as lucrative, and in part that could be because of issues relating to service delivery. I wonder what your take is on that. And my question also on top of that is that with that poor service delivery, which the president has also spoken of, is you still have a 13.9% increase for water and sanitation, but sometimes our taps are dry.
Let's start. So depending on what research you read and what you look at, for sure there was a time where everyone was migrating, for lack of a better word, to Cape Town. But I mean, current research, if you look at just your internet search, you will see that people are coming back to Joburg. Joburg still remains the economic hub of the country. For sure, we do have challenges on the ground, which we are fixing. In the main, really, it's because of old infrastructure. And I think the president spoke about it. So we've already started engagement with various DFIs. DFIs meaning development funding institutions. The biggest one in South Africa being the Development Bank of South Africa, but we are engaging with the international ones as well, so that we can bring funding into the city of Johannesburg to refurbish our infrastructure, because it is old. Our power stations are old, our pipes are old, and that's why sometimes you see all these leaks, and we must also fix our roads. But the city of Johannesburg, I don't know if you would know, but we do have an asphalt plant that's been operating now, fully operating for a year. So that asphalt plant will help with fixing the roads. That means we produce our own asphalt. We don't have to buy. So there are various elements that really contribute to what you see. But we are having strategies to fix that. Now, if we talk about the tariffs for water and electricity, because those are topical, Eskom is increasing their tariff by 12.74% from the 1st of April. So from tomorrow onwards, the city of Johannesburg will be paying Eskom 12.74% increase on the electricity that they supply to us, which we then supply to our residents. But we've only increased our draft tariff that is going out for public participation is at 12.41, meaning that we didn't pass on the full cost that Eskom is giving us. We said we'll find some savings within the city of Johannesburg so that we don't overburden our residents. That means cutting some costs that we think are unnecessary so that we can ensure that we don't overburden our residents. Number two, Rand Water, which is the bulk supplier of water for all municipalities in Johannesburg, increased their tariff by 15.3%. 15.3%. We are only increasing at 18.9%, like you correctly stated. Again, we chose not to pass through the entire 15.4% because, again, it is an overburden on our residents and our businesses. We said, let's see how the additional 1.4% we can absorb it in the city. Again, whether it's through reducing our expenses for non-core departments, which has its own implications, or dealing with issues like your illegal connections to our water and electricity, which is another loss that if we can deal with it effectively, we can have more savings. So we're having those various strategies that we are putting in place to ensure that we don't pass through the full cost of these tariff changes. I mean, you could imagine, Eldrin, if Eskom is increasing by 12.74 and we are the ones who are supplying you as a resident, we're actually supposed to be increasing at 13.5, for example, so that we can cater for our own profit margin. We didn't do that. We increased at a lower rate than our bulk supplier, both for electricity and water, to try and stem the burden on the consumer. So it's not like the city of Johannesburg is not a caring city. We are trying our best to cushion the customers by also being efficient on our side in terms of our expenses, but also dealing with key expenses, big expenses in our income statement, like your salaries, your bulk purchases, which is from Rand, Water and Eskom, and obviously dealing with your non-technical losses like your illegal connections, because that also is a loss of money that we could be reinvesting in our infrastructure. So I just wanted to cover that part to say we are not just thumb-sucking these tariffs. Thanks, Elke.
All right. The 200 Rand surcharge that was supposed to come into effect last year, where's the city now with regards to that?
So the 200 Rand surcharge is still there. It did come into effect, by the way, last year. We are not increasing it this year, so we are keeping it at 200. Again, if you look at our submissions to NERSA, in terms of the cost of supply study, if we were to get to a point where we are saying we have a cost-reflective tariff, meaning that we are taking all the input costs of us distributing electricity to the resident and coming up with a tariff, we were of the view that, initially we were of the view that we must increase the 200 Rand, maybe to 250. But again, when we engaged with ourselves as the EMT, the mayor and the mayoral committee, we felt as if, just increasing for the sake of increasing or not considering where the economy is and where residents are feeling the pain, it would not be prudent to do that. So we kept the surcharge as 200. There is no increase on the 200. So the same 200 that was there will remain. But what we have done is we've catered for your lower income customers and obviously your indigent customers by then taking out the 200 Rand surcharge from their bill. That will affect around 115,000 households in Johannesburg. They won't have the 200 Rand surcharge so that we can cushion them. I mean, when you talk about your low income households, I guess in the broader spectrum of South Africa, you could call them your missing middle, where you've got a job, but it's not enough to pay for your rent or your bond and your car and the like. So we're trying to cushion them against that 200 Rand surcharge, in addition to the fact that we are not even increasing the 200 Rand surcharge. It does have obviously implications on what we want to invest in our infrastructure, because in the main, that 200 Rand surcharge was for infrastructure development. But like I said, we are engaging various DFIs. We are also using our own money to then reinvest in that infrastructure because we have to refurbish it. We are at the point where if we don't do it in the next 5 to 10 years, it will collapse, and we don't want that. We don't want a situation where our substations are not working and permanently not working. So that's what we are looking at.
Yeah, and sometimes it almost feels that residents that are actually paying what is due to the city are carrying the burden of those who are defaulters. Is the city doing anything to deal with the defaulters and to make sure that they pay? I remember that there was a conversation that had taken place last year as well to say that, do you blacklist these particular individuals? Because it's unfair to have a group of residents who are paying and then you have a group that are not paying nothing at all and are essentially milking the state.
100%, you're correct. So those steps that we outlined last year, we are carrying on with them. Actually, we are being more aggressive on our credit management policies. So in addition to blacklisting, our credit management policy and the MFMA allows us to also do things like sale and execution. So very soon, maybe I'll come back to your show where we discuss the first 50 properties that we are dealing with in the courts. Our legal team is looking at it to ensure that sale and execution in the court and the summonses are issued. That's in addition to blacklisting. That's in addition to now removing our infrastructure from defaulters, and another layer of audit, because we have seen, Elton, various levels of illegality in the city of Johannesburg where we disconnect the customer and either a third party connects them or instances of our own people reconnecting them. without any permission. And you would have seen, if you follow City Power, we've made various arrests in that front. It's a situation that confronts us as Joburg, but even ESCOM, I see, has the same issue of just illegality that we are seeing. So we are dealing with that definitely broadly. We don't want to overburden those who are paying. So we are targeting the areas that are not paying. For example, Region A that encompasses Midrand and the likes, we are paying particular attention to it. Region F, that is your inner city, your Omonde, your Pasonia, we are targeting those. So I can rest assured to the residents of Johannesburg that we are not just milking those who can pay and harassing, because that's the word that's sometimes in there. We are not harassing anyone. We are making sure that everyone is paying. If there's no payment, we will remove our infrastructure, especially for those who can afford to pay and are just not paying the City of Johannesburg.
Thank you so much for your time. Tebogo Moraka is from the City of Johannesburg. They're joining us on the proposal for new tariff increases, and that process starting on Saturday.